Looking at this brace of Santa Gata supercar bulls, and you could be forgiven for thinking that I was in the land of La Dolce Vita. But when you observe the stately home behind, Stonor Park, we could only be in England. Stonor Park is near Henley-on-Thames. It's England at its greenest and most pleasant, and this place has been hosting enthusiast car shows for decades. But the one that's here today is rather special. In fact, you could describe it as super. So Tom, tell us about this incredible car.
It's a Facel Vega HK 500. They were made in France, in Paris. So it's a French car, but it has a 6.3 litre Chrysler engine, so it's quite quick. In 1959, they were the fastest four-seater production car in the world with 150 miles an hour top speed, which is quite a thing then.
So who was first with this? Let's build a car and put a big Yankee V8 in it. Was it Jensen or Facel?
No, Facel was before Jensen. Jensen came later.
Are you sure, Tom?
Yes.
You mean the French thought of something before us?
Well, I think so.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting car.
Yeah.
Not just because of the client list, which includes all sort of Hollywood luminaries. Almost got that word out. See, I did that thing. I reached for a big word and I didn't quite get there. Famous people. Hollywood famous people, Ava Gardner, Frank Sinatra, people like that, but also legit elite racing drivers. So it's not just a boulevardier.
No. I mean, Sterling Moss had one. He used his, instead of flying around all Europe, around the racing circuits, he drove his Facel Vega because he loved to drive it. There was a rumour that he also liked to pick up the women as he went around, but he reckoned it was the car to do it in.
So, how do you go about buying a car like this? I mean, would I be right in thinking that the vast majority of them were sold outside of France, mainly North America, I would imagine?
Yeah, America, a lot in the Middle East. The Shah of Iran had one, various kings out there had them, because they were so expensive, they were more expensive than a Rolls Royce, so you had to have the money to buy them.
Was it the most expensive car in the world when it was new?
That I don't know, to be honest, but it was very expensive.
So if you want one, is it better to look for one in the States than in Europe?
Well, yeah, in the States, I mean, there are a few in Europe. There's the odd one being found in France now, sort of a barn wreck. There's some coming up, but yeah, the States is the best place to buy them.
See, in both the car and the motorcycle world in recent times, we've seen a revival of the classic names. I mean, I was talking about this with one of the guys who started up Triumph again in the 1990s.
Yeah.
And we were stood outside a Triumph dealership in Manchester, a big Triumph dealership, saying BSA, Norton, Triumph have all come back.
Yeah.
And when we met in 93, if you'd said that, it would have been like, you need to get your head checked.
Yes.
They're never
ancient.
coming back. So I'm heading towards a question here, Tom, and I think you know which one it's going to be. Why hasn't Facel come back?
There is a guy that's making a Facel Vega racing car, which he hopes to race at Le Mans. But whether that ever comes off, I don't know. But I don't know. It's why they haven't redone the name, because it was such a famous name in its day.
Yeah, and it was such a, if you want to sell people, because the idea, back in the day, this would have sold, this is, for me, the greatest Grand Touring car of all time. This is for you and your wealthy friends to travel, to have breakfast in London, lunch in Paris, dinner in Monaco.
Yeah.
That's what it's for, isn't it?
Yeah, because it just cruises. I mean, it just goes at that sort of speed. It's a great Grand Tourer. It takes a lot of luggage because you can flap the back seat down, you've got a parcel shelf. And it was just something you went, as you say, just travelled around Europe with.
Yeah, and if you're clever and you love old cars like this, then more or less anything else from this period that's really quick or as quick as this has got some insanely complex quad-cam V8
Yes.
where you need to find an elderly genius who lives in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
who's the only man left alive who can fix them.
Yeah.
But this has got a Hemi, a Chrysler Hemi.
Yeah, I mean, you can't break it. It just keeps going. I mean, I've done various things to the car to sort of renovate it. I haven't touched the engine. There's no need.
There's no need. It's American. It works.
Yes.
Thanks, Tom.
That's
Beautiful, beautiful car.
Thank you very much.
Guy, we've been at various shows throughout this year. This one, I think, is the best.
I'd have to agree with you, Steve. The setting alone and the cars that we've drawn. I mean, we're stood next to this gorgeous WO Bentley just across from an 8C Alpha. We haven't seen cars like that during the season, have we?
Not really, but there are also plenty of the sort of everyday cars that are a feature of these shows, and which, funnily enough, I mean, there's an absolutely immaculate E-Type just there. Far better than ever the cars that came out of Rounds Lane were. But you expect to see E-Types at car shows, whereas you don't really expect to see a Brabham Viva, which we saw at the last one, or down there's a Dutton Aqua car.
It's the beauty of classic shows. It's what the team managed to draw together. I mean, I'm lucky enough to stand at the front and talk to people about their passions, their pride and joys. Here at Stonor Park, we've got a trio of Dinos. Early 1970s, gorgeous, to me, one of the prettiest cars ever made. But as you say, you also wander around, there's a lovely Austin 7 Top Hat Saloon down underneath the Chestnut Tree over there. There's a Lotus Europa. There's cars that you or I could aspire to. And then there's also these elite level supercars, and they're all parked up next to each other. It's what I mean. There's an F12 Ferrari there with more signatures on it than anything else in the world. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. Someone is going to think that's their life made because they've seen it.
Well, we're from the mixtape era, aren't we? Where in your bedroom, you'd get your vinyl and you'd get your other tapes and you'd get your twin deck. People won't know what the hell we're talking about. You could go to Dixon's and you could get a Sang-Yong twin deck recorder so you could tape other people's tapes. Not just tape your vinyl. Oh no, we were way past that. You'd make the perfect mixtape for in the car. Mm-hmm. So it'd be your perfect mix of tunes. And these shows are like a great mixtape, aren't they?
Absolutely. And they are curated, gently curated to give people a bit of everything. As I say, there's Le Mans level hypercars here, and there's also Morris Minors. And every single thing in between. It's a glorious mixtape. It's the right analogy.
And as the commentator, I was going to ask you how much preparation you do, but I guess the answer is going to be a lifetime, Steve.
Absolutely, Steve. Since 1982, I've been preparing for this role.
Because you've got every kind of car coming in front of you. And in a way, that's great, but doing the job that you do, talking to everybody over the PA, the pitfalls, the pratfalls, the mistakes that could be potentially made. For instance, calling that car there a Ferrari Dino, you could do that and infuriate at least a third of the people here. How do you avoid that?
You think before you open your mouth. I mean, your time in telly, you know that this is a one-take situation. If I let it out, I know, and I can tell in our standard setting at classic shows, I'm in an arena, I've got so many sets of eyes looking at me, and I'll be chuntering away, talking about this, and the brain will just have a little bit of a glitch, and it'll be out my mouth, and I'll think, those 17 people in the Austin Healey shirts are going, no, lad, you got that wrong, no, it's wrong. To do what I do, you have to know, I mean, I describe it as being a jack of all, but a master of sod all, basically. You've got to know a little bit about everything, recognise the badge, know that it's essentially this, and then allow yourself to be educated by the owner, because they will always know more than I do about what they've got, and not make it about me, make it about what they've bought and why they bought it.
You have a great way of bringing them in and drawing out some of those great stories they've got to tell.
It's very kind, Steve. I think that ought to be the end of the interview. End it on a high.
Ross, do you like old cars? Most people I've met in motor racing really don't like cars. They like racing cars.
I like both. I think I love old cars, and you know, my car collection started when I was working at Jaguar in the 80s, Jaguar sports cars, where we did Le Mans. And I bought an E-Type, bought a Mark II Jag, and it kind of evolved from there. And then, of course, I spent 10 years at Ferrari. So I got to see all the inner workings of the classic car departments and all the rest of it. So I've always been quite passionate about cars. And racing cars for me somehow are a separate compartment.
It's like cats and dogs, really, isn't it?
They are, and you know, racing cars are pretty extreme versions of engineering. I mean, they're planes with wheels, and whereas an old car with its history and its background and its patina and its charisma, it's a different sort of thing, really.
Do you think this enthusiasm for old cars will continue, or do you think it's going to die with us? Which is a terrible thing to say, but it might happen. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think we're seeing younger people now starting to show an interest. I mean, certainly, slightly digressing there, but if you look at Formula One, there's a whole new demographic of young people enjoying the sport and getting involved in the sport, and I think it will carry on with cars. They are beautiful works of art and a lot of fun, so I think it will continue.
What have you come here in today?
I've got that blue Ferrari. So.
A blue Ferrari, so is that like Rob Walker blue?
Yes, Rob Walker. It's a car, that's actually a replica of a car I own. So I have the original, and then I built a copy that I can take to picnics like this and not worry about it and have some fun. I like to look after the original, and this one's much more usable. So, but it's actually a carbon copy of the 1960 TT winner, which I have in my garage at home.
So, dog of the day, and what a great day for dogs this was. However, there could only be one winner, and here he is. This is Nigel, the Italian Greyhound. Some people say he only won because he belongs to the organisers. How dare they? Jerry, how hard is it to decide what gets to come and what doesn't?
It's almost impossible, but then you just have to go with your heart and go, I want to put a mixture of great cars here, modern cars, old cars, classic cars, new cars, and we don't worry if they're, some of them are not genuine. There's a 550 Spider up there. It's not an original. But it's about what the people like, and it's about the crowds coming in, seeing something beautiful and going, why not? There are other shows where you can go to and they say, you'll never get that car in here because it's not original. But we're not worried about that. I don't think there's an event like this anywhere, and you can park your car and just talk to people with other cars. And it's a meeting. That's the great thing. A car is not anything without the owner. And the owner's story and it's the relationship with that car is what makes it unique. So a car is a one-off because somebody owns it. So I like the fact that people come here, talk about their cars, talk to other people, have an ice cream or have a Fortnum Mason's hamper in this amphitheatre which is made for car events. So I love it. I think it's great.
I always get to wander around at these shows. We have a feature car of the day, and I get to pick my favourite car. It's always something wildly different, which probably says more about me than it does about the cars. But is there a car here today that really, amongst this exceptional collection, and as you say, such an incredible variety of cars from all around the world at all price levels, is the one that leaps out at you, sir?
I'm a Porsche 911 fan, but I'm not going to pick one of those. And not that. But there are some amazing, like there's a Lotus Esprit Essex, there, which is, I mean, if somebody said, here are the keys, it's yours, I'd be so happy, because they're coming back. These cars, the thing about it's like fashion, they go in and out of fashion. Those cars, I think, Lotus Esprits, my God, they're stunning. And there is some beautiful Austin 7s, and people say, oh, I had one of those, or my father had one of those. Somebody said my father had one of those, and there were 8 of us, and we went from Surrey down to Cornwall.
8 of them?
Yeah. So there were 2 adults and 6 in the back.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
didn't students used to do that in the 1960s? You used to do it with minis, didn't they?
I think that, that's a great thing. We've mixed it all up, and you can walk past an Aston Martin, and there's an Austin 7, and then there's a Ferrari, and then there's a Lamborghini, and then there's something else. And we put the nice ones at the front because we're trying to obviously build up the stature of the event, but we're never going to change it. We're never going to make it something. This will never be one of those fancy shows.
Good.
Yeah, I think so. It's an honest day out for all the family. That's what it should be.
One of the greatest things for me about these shows is seeing the cars. And it always sounds like, I think we're both being careful not to have a go, but I do love to see amazing cars arriving, having been driven here on the road. Not trailered, not covered up, driven. Somebody's got up this morning and thought, do you know what, let's go to Stonor Park. Yeah. And they've just come down in the car.
I think that's more, very few car shows allow cars just to be trailered in. I've just been at Pebble Beach, and they have a tour especially, so they've stopped all that. So anybody wants to do well in the competition, they have to be on the tour. We all have cars because we like driving. Yes, I like looking at cars, but we all like driving them, really, don't we? When they first did the London Brighton, I think there were about 400 eligible cars, if that. Now, there's well over 1,500 cars that can do eligible for the event. I think that's like classic bikes. They're all being looked after, restored, and it's great. What more do you need than a bike?
Well, I'm not going to argue with that.
I've got a bike, yeah.
Time for my car of the day, and here at Stonor Park that has been a tough task. So many truly great cars here today, but as we know, the thing with old cars is as much about the story that goes with them and their relevance to you. And a car that means a lot to me is this one, the 1991 Honda NSX, the first true supercar from Japan. It's not a Porsche, it's not a Ferrari, it's a Honda, but to bikers like me, that name is just as meaningful and evocative as anything to come out of Europe. 270 brake horsepower, mid-mounted 3-litre V6. This one's mated to an automatic gearbox and aircon, and for a lot of people, that would mean it can't be considered in the same way as you may a Porsche or a Ferrari. But let me tell you the difference between those cars and this one. This one worked. Everything on it worked. It was as reliable as a Honda Accord, and that's why they sold so many in America. And I'll tell you what, this car's over 30 years old. It's in regular use, and it looks like it just rolled out to the factory. How many 30-year-old Ferraris do you think could say that? That's right, none. It's a Honda. So Rupert, tell us why you've come along today.
Well, I've been invited here along with Johnson Bahari, whose foundation I chair, to enjoy the festivities, enjoy the fun, and help promote the Johnson Bahari VC Foundation a little bit.
Yeah. Well, tell us about this amazing car that you're leaning on so casually. It's quite a thing, isn't it?
It's a 1934 Alfa Romeo 8C Monza, so it's got an 8-cylinder 3-litre supercharged engine on an Alfa 6C chassis, and I was in this car in Italy the back end of last year doing the Cento Oro de Modena, the oldest car on the event, charging through the mountains and having some nice meals in the evening.
How do you think we're doing pretending that we don't know each other and that we're not mates and we don't actually go on holiday together? How do you think that's going, Rupert?
Well, I think I've never seen you before in my life. The fact that only 10 days ago we were in Scotland on motorbikes causing mayhem in the Highlands and Islands.
But this is what it's all about, isn't it? It's about, today's been so great here at Stonor Park. People getting together, having a great time, talking, looking at cars. Amazing.
It's been a very, very relaxed atmosphere. So David Cook, who's standing behind you now, causing trouble there, has brought this along. He's now looking at us to wonder what we're talking about him for. But also Johnson Maharry's turned up with his family. They've had a lovely time. The kids, especially his daughter, funny, was really into cars. And we had a racing at Goodwood last weekend in the Setchington Cup. So it's nice to bring the family along to these things. And it's not a load of old codgers like you and me standing around talking about grommets and camshaft lifts and other silly stuff like that. But have fun and enjoy the company of interesting and fun people.
Matthew, what a great day we've had here at Stonor Park.
Yes, wow, just taking a breath, Steve, really, but fantastic day, unbelievable selection of cars, weather held off, people were in good spirits, very happy.
Such an informal atmosphere. I think that's one of the things that the people that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to all kinds of people here today, that's the thing that they've identified as making this show special.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something we intentionally tried to kind of pitch it at that level, have something that was interesting, engaging, some fantastic content, but kind of inclusive, not too exclusive, something for everybody. And I think you're right. I think there was a fantastic atmosphere, and that was something that we worked hard to achieve, and I think it's been delivered.
So future plans, the event will be back next year, but I believe you've got something else in store as well, yeah?
Yeah, very much. We're looking to go to 2 one-day events next year. So the first of those will be the 19th of May. And then in September date as well to be announced. So the idea is to have a spring and autumn meeting, May, September, and similar theme, hopefully with new bits of content, but again some fabulous cars and just a really nice relaxed day out.
Well, what a way to see out 2023's car shows. Stonor Park was a blast. Keep looking at the website for news of what's going on next year, all sorts of exciting things. See you then.